Welcome to part 16 of Basic Training. In this video we're going to cover all the strategies and shortcuts to play Peach Beach on 150cc. This track is about as much of a drive forward simulator as it gets, so we're going to be using the high speed combo of Bowser and Real Racer. Hold down the item button during the countdown so that you can use a mushroom as soon as the run begins. Then drive forward for just a couple tenths of a second and then aim for this pole on the right and start a charge jump. Release it and jump directly into the second pole on the right and you'll automatically trick. You can use that to do a bit of course correction and aim for a trick off the third pole before landing in a charge jump back on the track. Now, Lord knows there's basically nothing to talk about for the rest of the track, so let me just take a minute and talk about charge jumps. I love them. They're really cool and they add a ton of technical depth to the game because of this weird property where if you're in the middle of a boost when you do one, it preserves your momentum, and that includes things like mushroom boosts, trick boosts, and startup boosts. This is why we want to make sure to do the charge jump right before the mushroom runs out, and it's also why we charge jump directly upon landing. But we do need to be a bit picky about how we do the first charge jump, making sure to time it out in such a way that we're on the downward arc of our jump when we hit the pole, because this maximizes your speed. Now, after charging an Ultra Mini Turbo around the right turn, we're going to drive straight through the water, hitting one of the coins from the first jet ski and then turning left to grab the 3 coins from the second jet ski. Now, in general, it's very important that we minimize steering in the water as much as possible because water physics in this game are awful. So when going into the water, you want to make sure that your cart is angled in such a way that you'll be able to grab that first coin without steering at all. But you also want to be angled slightly to the right when you grab that coin so that you can steer harder left into the 3 coins. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the coins and you'll just clip the jet ski instead. After that, do a left drift to widen your line and then right drift, waiting until you're fully in the grass to use your mushroom. You want to charge up an Ultra Mini Turbo here, but the timing on this can be incredibly finicky. I think what's going on here is that if you get this little wheelie animation when going into the grass, you won't actually charge the Mini Turbo until after the animation is over, so you'll probably have to hold the drift for a lot longer than you might think. But once you get the Ultra Mini Turbo, you're going to want to start a charge jump a little bit before getting the first coin so that we can use it to extend the Ultra Mini Turbo boost. And then charge jump on top of the fountain so that we can trick off of it and chain that trick boost into yet another charge jump. I know, that's quite a bit of charge jump for a single run-on sentence, but the point is that you want to make sure that whenever you're on a straightaway that you're chaining boosts into charge jumps as much as possible. Now for the next 2 hairpin turns, the idea is to approach them from a really wide line. For the left turn, we want to come at it from the right-hand side of the track, and for the right turn, we want to come at it from the left-hand side of the track, only tightening our drifts when it'll let us grab the coins. The world record gets an extra trick after the second turn, but that is very difficult to do consistently. After a series of tricks off these staircases, we're going to start a left drift and then mushroom through the boxes, charging up a Super Mini Turbo and releasing it as soon as the mushroom boost runs out. You want to take a line that hits the second coin from the left and then the first coin on the rail, doing mid-air course correction tricks to land back on the rail if possible, but again, it can be pretty difficult to get this consistently, and it's not the biggest time loss in the world if you miss it. But now we move on to the world's most obnoxious glider ramp in the game. There are 2 sets of these coins in a cross pattern, and we want to make sure to grab 3 coins from each one to max out at 20 coins. But for whatever reason, Nintendo decided to make gliders in this game the most unwieldy pieces of crap ever. The first set of coins usually isn't that difficult to deal with, but the second set is just awful. The world record seems to be holding down for a bit every half second or so to try and make sure they maintain enough height to get the coins, but because of Bowser's gigantic head and body, it's really hard to get the right angle to even see what's going on, let alone getting all 3 coins consistently. And the problem is that coins work differently in this game than they do in 8 Deluxe. For the 2-second summary, the last few coins provide a much bigger speed boost for heavy characters than the first few coins, and coin 20 in particular gives you a huge boost, so missing any coins here will cost you multiple tenths of a second by the end of the run. Yeah, it's really that important. But the only other thing to talk about here is that once you land from the glider, you want to trick off the platform onto the rail and then trick off of the rail. Drive straight until you can mushroom through the boxes and then do a delayed trick off of the ramp while holding up on the joystick. When tricking off the last ledge, if you press the trick button as soon as you hit the water, you should be able to get one more trick, and then you want to immediately start a left drift to take a really tight line around the left turn. After that, it's literally just a bunch of driving straight until you hit the finish line. And believe it or not, that's all the strats, so let's talk about the track a bit more while checking out my current personal best. And as always, if you found the video helpful or entertaining, I'd really appreciate if you drop a like on it so that it can get spread to more people. Thank you for that. As always, you are awesome. Now, Peach Beach. It's a beach. It's peachy. It's Peach Beach. Look, man, I don't know. Do I really need to explain why this track sucks? The big selling point of Mario Kart World is all the new gameplay gimmicks like rails, wall rides, and charge jumps. It's one of the reasons why, even though the actual driving has been heavily dumbed down from 8 Deluxe, it's really not all that noticeable on most tracks. Let's take Crown City for example. That's a track that has you spend literally about 50% of your time on some variation of long straightaway where you can't snake drift. But it never feels like a long, boring straightaway because of how many different movement mechanics you're expected to do, chaining trick boosts into charge jumps, charge jumping onto rails, pole tricks, and the list goes on. But after Section 1, Peach Beach basically doesn't have any of that. I mean, Section 1 does have the charge jump at the start, but it's otherwise made up of long straightaways or simple drifts. Section 2 is pretty much the same thing after the fountain, and then Section 3 is basically just entirely driving straight. I guess what I'm trying to say is that to me this feels like a track that was designed to be a slightly more interesting connecting segment for Knockout Tour as opposed to a fully fleshed out racing experience in its own right, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that this is probably one of those tracks that you don't really need to spend all that much time on. But you know, they can't all be bangers, and the fact that this is one of only like 3 tracks that I actively don't enjoy, and that in reality I find it more forgettable than outright offensive, speaks to the high quality of the rest of Mario Kart World's courses, so, you know, I'll take whatever silver lining I can get.